My name's Kim Campbell. I'm from Third Coast Review, and I'm talking to Blair Thomas.
Hmm.
Blair is the founder of the Red Moon and also a professional puppeteer and the founder of Blair Thomas and Company, and more
Hmm.
recently, the founder of the Chicago International Puppet Theater Festival. Is that right, Blair?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I got all the facts straight there. So that's a lot of things that you
Hey,
found.
yeah, technically I was the co-founder of Red Moon, but that's okay.
Oh, okay.
Many years ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. But a Chicago institution nonetheless that we're happy to have had.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
so my first question for you is, you have a pretty big lineup this year, and is it the second year of the festival?
Yes, it is. This is the second edition of the festival, and it is a good lineup. You know, we have over 20 performances that over the 11 days of the festival make 90 different performances. So, over 20 acts that makes 90 different performances.
Wow.
And there are companies coming from 7 different countries, and which we're really excited about. And yeah, there's stuff for very young audiences. There's for family audiences. There's stuff for adults, for lovers, intellectuals, and people who like to stay up late at night.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. One of those shows is very late, and I'm planning on going to it. But with such a wide range of shows, do you feel that puppetry is experiencing a resurgence of popularity?
This question comes up a lot to puppeteers practicing today, and yes, it definitely is. There is a renaissance of puppetry in the world at large, and yeah, but the one we're currently in has been going on for a couple decades
Mm-hmm.
in many ways. So so the work has matured. In the particularly 30 years ago when I started Red Moon, it was the kind of work that you would see in the puppet theater was not the kind of stuff that you're going to see today. And so there's a real advancement to it, and that's been really exciting to me to be around and witness that stuff happening.
Yeah, that's great. Can you give me an example of how things have changed a little over the years?
Well, I think uh, one of the things I've experienced is to see the form uh, draw from the many different traditions across the globe. Like you have the tradition of the bunraku, which comes out of Japan, that has infiltrated almost all the cultures of contemporary practitioners, and using this doll that's being operated by someone who's standing right next to it, literally holding on to the doll. In
Mm-hmm.
some way, there's one or two or three people operating a puppet, and that's so traditional forms blending together is the hallmark of contemporary puppetry. And the other one is advancing this what I call the language of the puppet, which is kind of different from the actors theater language, which is really a text-based, is dominated by a text-based tradition. And in the puppet theater, text is just one of the elements that's being employed. And so there's this other language, which is a visual theater language that's using the replicate figure, whether it's a human or a spirit or an animal, or to create the performance, and with the kind of same kind of dramaturgy that a well-made play would have.
Yeah, is that what gives puppetry its magic? That element that doesn't exist in regular theater?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Puppetry is strength is that it's coming from another world. It's not pedestrian. It's the puppet is not bound by the rules and laws that we live by, and so to be in the presence of that is a very powerful thing. You can experience its otherworldliness,
Mm-hmm.
and to that's what makes it dynamic.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, can you give us a taste of what some of the shows will be about or featuring?
Sure, yeah. Um, this, to that topic is a company from France called Plexus Polar, who's doing a show called Sender or Ashes, and it's an adaptation of a Norwegian novel called Before I Burn. It's a story of a man who is a young man who's coming of age, and his father is the fire chief of the village and the town he lives in, and the young man becomes a pyromaniac, and he's compelled to start these fires and burn down people's barns and houses, and the tragedy unfolds as people start to understand who is doing it and why he's doing it. But it's a show it's a very dramatic, strong piece of theatrical literature, but it doesn't use any spoken word. And this company does employ the Bunraku style of puppetry, but it also has a very strong mix of video projection and stage imagery. That has a sophistication to it that I was really excited about being able to bring to Chicago, because that's one of the currencies of our theater community is we really want a story that's played out and that has an arc and a sophistication to it. And so there's that. Senders by Plexus Polar. I would also there's another show it's an adaptation of the original Sorcerer's Apprentice, and by a company from Minneapolis called Open Eye, and it can be for young audiences, but it has a lot for adult audiences as well. So it's what I can highly recommend. Senders, the Plexus Polar, is happening at Victory Gardens Theater, aptly, the theater of the well-made play, and Open Eye is taking place at Adventure Stage. There's another really exciting piece by an Iranian artist who now is living in New York, but he's made an adaptation of the Shahnameh, which is the Persian Book of Kings, an epic piece of Persian literature that is really not known in the West. And his real objective is how to bring culture like Persian culture specifically to the West. And so he was a book designer. He's a designer himself, and so this is the book that he designed of the Shahnameh. You guys can you see this? Wow. It's where he's taken images from traditional adaptations, and he's made a contemporary.
Oh, cool.
He's made a contemporary design of them, and then as well as worked with the telling of the story. So this whole book, which is a big project of his, he's turned into an epic shadow puppet piece, and we're presenting that at the Studebaker Theater in the Fine Arts Building. Right. It's a beautiful theater, and the screen that they perform on is the size of a movie screen. It's a giant screen, and that's for family audiences. Very dynamic piece. So there's 3 examples.
Yeah, and I guess I should have led off with the question of when is this festival? That might be important information.
The festival is in 2 weeks. We open on January 19th, Thursday night, and we run through the 29th, which is a Sunday. So we expand in the last 2 weekends of January.
Yeah, that's great. Especially this time of year. It's great to have all these wonderful performances to go see. You know, you did mention that there is like an all-ages show and that there are some, like there's a late after-hours show. You know, I think it's kind of like a stereotypical thing, but people do tend to think of children when they think of puppets. But they really do appeal to all ages. So why do you think adults who haven't been exposed to them since childhood should give it a chance, this festival?
Because they will see something like they've never seen before. The form is full of a lot of visually arresting images and ideas, and it's dynamic and sophisticated, and it's not only a child's fare. So it's puppetry has really advanced from the conventional notion of what it can be.
Totally, I agree. That's great. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, Blair? How you got involved with puppetry, and why you decided to do the festival, for example?
Sure. Yeah. Let's see. Well, I grew up in a small town in the South, and there wasn't a movie theater and much to do, and I became interested in a couple store-bought puppets I had, and then I started a little puppet company with my friends, and did much like what I do now, which is I get together with my friends and I make shows, and that was a kind of a fascination of mine for about 5 years, and then I matured into high school and was like, I set it aside as something that I didn't think worthy of serious investigation, and got involved in actors theater. And I came to Chicago after studying music and literature at Oberlin in Ohio, and then I was really interested in being a director. But then I got disillusioned by the actors theater for many different reasons, and got an opportunity to make a piece. And I thought, I'll try to make a puppet show. And this is when I was like 27 or something, and I got a balloon and I blew it up and I covered it with paper mache and I stuck the head on the box and I made a little puppet show, and the puppet show was really exciting, and I was like, wow, this is great. And so I started the Red Moon Theater from that production. And that was that, but the notion of the Red Moon didn't just come out of nowhere. In 1988, there was a company here in Chicago at the Chicago International Theater Festival that was running during that time from Barcelona, and they're called El Comediants, and they did this great production at the Park West, and they had a workshop, and I did the workshop with them, and I saw the show, and it completely changed my mind about what theater could be, and it was my principal inspiration to starting Red Moon.
Oh, wow.
And so that experience of having that kind of that's all it takes, a fertile mind, having exposure. And so in many ways, starting the festival is an attempt to rekindle the interest in Chicago for the international festival that the theater festival had, but also clearly we're an audience. We have a kind of cosmopolitan audience, interest in that kind of stuff, and so so starting the festival was a way of kind of tapping into that, and also the realization that in the U.S. there's not a major city with a major puppet festival happening. There was one for a while, but there's not anymore. And
wow.
We're a huge country, and so I felt like, not only is that not good for the art form, but it's not good for the audiences in the U.S. And so those are the principal reasons why I got it going.
Those are important reasons. And are there worldwide puppet festivals that are very popular, or not?
Yes, there are. It's. Most countries have a lot of festivals in them, and it depends on what the traditions are. And it's not really so much about the traditions of the form of puppetry as much as the traditions of culture in a country. So the European countries, like France and Germany, have an intense amount of puppetry festivals, and because their economic society supports the arts in a way that
we don't
here. So.
I've heard that one before a few times. So what are some of the activities in this festival this year that are for the general public, and is that important to the festival?
What do you mean when you say general public? They're all
just
for the general public.
Is there any that are free, that are open to ages?
Gotcha.
And
yes, so most of the events are ticketed, but we have a whole series that's free, and that's called the Festival Neighborhood Tour. And that idea comes from a couple different places. In the early days of Red Moon, we would try to do this stuff where we would tour the park districts with shows, these free performances and stuff. And obviously, that's something the Chicago Shakes is doing. The people do now as well. But in truth, we were inspired by that because in the 30s, when the WPA established the Chicago Puppetry Guild here, and they hired teams of artists and artisans to make touring productions that traveled around the city of Chicago and paid them with government money for several years. They toured the park districts and all those wonderful field houses. And so I've done work like that in the past, and so I was interested in making that tradition as part of the festival as well. And cool. So we're taking 3 shows that are traveling together to 6 different locations around the city for free performances. So it's almost like the circus is coming to town for this one day at a given park, and like Hamilton Park or Marquette Park, for example, are some of the parks we're presenting at.
Oh, great. That's cool. So I noticed looking at the website there that you have something called Symposium and something
There's
called
that.
Catapult, and I'm just wondering what those are all about, and if you could give us a little info about those.
Sure thing, yes. So the symposium is the Ellen von Valkenburg Puppetry Symposium that we do in conjunction with the Gray Center for Arts and Inquiry at the University of Chicago. And Ellen von Valkenburg was a puppeteer working in the Fine Arts Building here where I sit back before World War I with the Chicago Little Theater. And she coined the term puppeteer and put it into the English language when she was working on a production of Midsummer's Night's Dream. And so, inspired by her and her tradition here in Chicago, I've named the symposium after her. So the symposium this year is taking place twice. The first part of it is happening at the MCA on the 22nd, Sunday. And it's open and free to the public from 10 o'clock till 1 o'clock 10 o'clock in the morning to 1 in the afternoon, and we have artists who are all presenting and performing, talking on panels, and so different focuses of it are. There's a group of artists who are talking about the puppet in relationship to the human body, and then the other ones looking at puppets as vehicles for narrative storytelling. And then there's a second panel that's around the production of Feathers of Fire. That's the Chamonix piece that I was talking about. The artists the Iranian artists who worked on that project are going to be talking about that project and how they did it, and the tradition of the Chamonix as well. That's happening on this Saturday. Yeah. So that's the symposium, and then the catapult is another idea I had, which was how to make the festival have a cultural impact. And one of the ways is to go directly to the art makers who are working in the U.S. today. And so we have 22 theater and visual artists who across the country are coming to participate in this 4-day professional development intensive, where they see 10 shows and they have workshops with artists, and they go to the symposium and they have backstage tours. And they have an immersive experience. And there's an exchange and dialogue, and it's being run by Kristen Haverty, who is a producer at the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta. We brought her up to run this program. And it's something I'm really excited about, that we've got a full enrollment for that this first year.
That's great. And so is that those artists are not necessarily puppeteers? They're from
They're not. A lot of them are, as it turns out. Some, and but they're all practitioners, and they're interested in broadening their own experience and advancing the form.
That's wonderful. Yeah, It seems like you've kind of hit all the markers with this. You're going for the public, for kids, for adults, for professionals, for the academic angle. It's really a great process. I'm very excited about this whole festival.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is the interesting thing about puppetry, is it crosses so many boundaries in terms of institutions and organizations. Like the 25 institutions that we're working with to create the festival, all have some little part of puppetry as part of their programming. It's not like it's new to them. We're just enhancing it and putting it together at the same time.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, I only have one more question for you, Blair, and that is, what advice would you give someone today who wanted to get into puppetry as a practitioner?
Well, let's see here. I think there's a lot of opportunity to learn about the work in terms of making the work, and getting exposed to it, being able to see it is really key, because there's so many things. Like even I want to see the evidence of the work of someone's, the development of someone's work, a new idea that someone has, a new technique that someone has. And so it's like, just if you sit in the room and see Manuel Sinta's work, so much, you can learn so much within like 20 minutes. Boom, there's so many ideas that are going on. And so get exposed to the work is one. And then just start doing it. Don't have anyone tell you otherwise. Just make a show. You can make a show the day after the festival. I guarantee it.
That's good to hear. That's great. Okay, well, once again, it starts January
19th.
19th.
Thursday the 19th, and it runs through the 29th.
Great. So just wanted to say thank you again so much for talking to me and the Coast
Sure.
Review. And we're looking forward to
Yeah.
seeing you at the festival.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, Blair. Thanks.